Hundreds of Syrian rebels have abandoned their last stronghold in the city of Homs. The withdrawal of opposition fighters and their families comes after the Syrian government and rebels reached a ceasefire deal. It will mark the end of 3 years of resistance in Homs, which had once been dubbed the capital of the revolution against Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. It hands al-Assad a symbolic victory right before presidential elections in June. Over the past few years, government forces have gradually regained control of the city by subjecting areas once home to tens of thousands to continuous siege and bombardment. Nearly 2,000 Syrians are scheduled to leave the city. To discuss the issue, I'm joined now by Bassam Abu Abdullah, the head of the Damascus Center for Strategic Studies in Syria, and Rafif Jouejati, the director of the Free-Syria Foundation. She is with me right here in Washington. Welcome to the both of you. And Rafif, let me start with you. Does the withdrawal of fighters from Homs effectively mean that this uprising or civil war is over?
Thanks for the question. No, this uprising is not over. The rebels who left Homs left with the weapons. They have vowed to return. All of us in the Syrian revolution have vowed to continue the struggle until Bashar al-Assad steps down.
Dr. Abdullah, is that your understanding of the situation as well?
No, absolutely. We are not speaking about revolutionary people. They are terrorist groups, and either United States and all the international community knows that these groups, they are from ideological background from Wahhabi or Muslim Brotherhood or something like that. So I think they defeated because they have lost everything, especially the support of the public opinion in Syria. Everyone discovered, because in Homs you should know that there is a foreigners, and all this deal behind that some government in the region and in the world. So I think either they asked some regional states to cover the intelligence officer inside old city of Homs. So the collapse of these militants rebels, it means finished the symbolic of their revolution, not the Syrian revolution, because the Syrian people, they will win, all Syrian people, they will win from this deal, not only President Assad.
Okay, I'm sure you have a response to that.
I do have a response to that. When we're talking about foreigners on Syrian soil, are we talking about Russians? Are we talking about Iranians? Or are we talking about Hezbollah factions? Of course, we may be talking about the Islamist jihadists who have come in from all over the world, perhaps at the invitation of Bashar al-Assad himself, certainly with his approval, as he at one time controlled the borders. Those Islamists that this gentleman speaks of are not part of the Syrian revolution, nor are they part of the formal opposition.
Dr. Abdullah, is this a victory for President Bashar al-Assad?
The question mainly not with President Assad. This is very, it's a try to personalize what's going on inside Syria. I think when these criminal elements attacking Ma'loula near Damascus, I invite every foreigner, every normal people to see we are combating terrorism. All Europe and the United States recognizing that thousands of foreign, they are fighting here, thousands of from Saudi Arabia. I am not ignoring that there are Syrian, but all these Syrians who are fighting, they are not fighting for democracy. They are not developed people, and I don't think that democracy will come through Saudi Arabia or through Saudi's money or Qatari money or weapons. Democracy, it needs a normal people who has their project in politics and in economy and social. The problem of the West with the President Assad, that he is fighting against their project. These slogans for democracy, it's, I think, failed. And we know, I am living in Damascus. Our colleague, she is living, I don't know, from America. When she will come to Syria, she will see what kind of revolutionary people she is talking about. This is failed, and this story is finished. Everyone in the world knows what's going inside Syria. This is the war between axes, between Syria, Hezbollah, Iran, Russia, China, and the Western axis.
So what about that? The fighters are not developed and they are not fighting for democracy.
Certainly the fighters that represent ISIS are not fighting for democracy. I wish I could point to instances where the Assad regime had actually attacked them, as opposed to the more secular Free Syrian Army, which was formed in response to the government shooting at peaceful protests. That is just
an interesting point that you bring up, that the opposition to Assad is not a unified opposition here.
No, the opposition to Assad is not necessarily unified. However, under a single umbrella, we are unified. We want Assad to step down. We want to transition from dictatorship and to democracy. And as the good doctor just said, he invites me to come to Syria to see for myself. Unfortunately, I can't because there are execution orders for me, because I have spoken out for a transition and because I have spoken out for democracy. And I do represent the largest network of civil resistance activists in Syria. So my current presence in Washington makes no difference. I am Syrian and I do represent Syrians.
Dr. Abdullah, this deal was brokered by the United Nations. In effect, what is happening right now is that these rebel fighters are being moved to another part of Syria. Is the battle merely being moved to another part of Syria right now?
I think they defeated the militant rebels in the old city. They fired everything behind them, and this deal was through United Nations, and it was behind. It's not, they didn't declare anything, just to keep everything to have success, because you know that the terrorist organization inside Syria getting support from Israel, from Saudi Arabia, from Qatar, from Turkey, and I don't think that those people that are looking for democracy. This is shame, because when the United States will receive Ahmed al-Jarba, who is a narcotic businessman, I don't think that this is a model for democracy or for opposition in Syria. I think U.S. should be interested in the interests of the American people, not of the Syrian people. America is not an international policeman who can give us order or advice for our future.
All right, I want to move on to another issue right now, and these are the elections that have been called by President Assad. I mean, can elections be held under current conditions? And why is the Assad government so insistent on having elections?
This is absolutely ludicrous. If we look at Homs, who is left in Homs to vote? Whether for Assad or any other candidate. Homs now has old city of Homs now has a population of some 1,600 people. Everybody else has fled or been starved to death. Where will people vote? How will people vote? How will people voice their opposition? This election is an absolute farce. I don't know why Bashar al-Assad feels the need to go through with it. Perhaps it's to assuage whatever supporters he has left in the country.
Dr. Abdullah, many questions. How can this election take place under current conditions? As Rafif just pointed out, how can people vote?
I'm living in Damascus and I know... Oh, yes. I'm living in Damascus and I know better than our colleague from America. She is living in America. We know that we have constitution, we are an independent state. And all efforts from outside are to stop these elections. If the opposition is strong and behind them millions, they could push candidates. There is constitution, we should respect that. And especially in this difficult time, I think because the West, they know that President Assad will win. He will win because he has a support from the army, from Syrian people. If he has opposition, I am not ignoring that, but the opposition could push any candidate. Because America accepted the elections in Afghanistan while Afghanistan is occupied. And they accepted the democracy on the shoulders of donkeys. They used donkeys in the election in Afghanistan, and they accepted that. The question here is not legality. The legality coming from the Syrian people, not from America. We are not waiting
I want to get a response
their comments.
Right, I'm going to get a response from Rafif. Yeah, go ahead.
So Mr. Abu Abdullah speaks as though Syria has been a democracy for the past 50 years. Mr. Abu Abdullah speaks as though we were Switzerland and it was the revolution for dignity and democracy that changed things. We do not have a democracy in Syria, and that is the whole point of the revolution. And the fact that Bashar al-Assad ordered for his army to shoot at peaceful protesters more than 3 years ago is the beginning of the end of his reign of terror.
Okay, I want to get another question in, and that is about the international response to what has been going on in Syria. A British television network quoted one of the withdrawing fighters from Homs as saying, "The rest of the world has failed us." Has the rest of the world failed Syria?
Absolutely. All of us around the world, and especially those in Syria who continue to support genocide, have failed. We have watched millions upon millions of people become displaced, not once and not twice, but multiple times in their own country. We have seen refugees in the millions flee to neighboring countries. We have seen the entire collapse of society in Syria. What we don't talk about, though, in mainstream media is the perseverance of different communities, particularly women, who are forming this nascent civil society that has emerged as a brave and courageous force despite all the militarization.
Okay. Dr. Abdullah, I want to get your response to something that is happening right here in Washington. A senior opposition leader, Syrian opposition leader, is currently in Washington. He's been holding talks with White House officials. He'll be holding talks with the Pentagon. His name is Ahmed Assi al-Jabra, and he wants the U.S. to supply anti-aircraft missiles to the rebels. I mean, the very fact that he is holding talks in Washington is significant enough. What is your response to that?
Yeah, as I understood, for the visit of Ahmed al-Jabra to Washington, nothing will change. We hear for more than 3 years the balance of power, the new weapons, and nothing will change. The Syrian people, they are not supporting this kind of opposition. I can tell everyone that Ahmed Jabra, he is a narcotic businessman. America, Washington should know it's a shame for America to receive this kind of figure. And he is representing Saudi and Wahhabi, not representing Syria, because he is getting money from Saudi Arabia. I don't think nothing will change, only through dialogue, and the West should finish with the Assad phobia. They have phobia. They should go, I think, to the hospital to deal with this disease. They are not interested in the people. Right. I don't think that our colleague in America is interested in Syrian people more than me or more President Assad. This is a war against Syria, and we are defending ourselves.
Okay, time's catching up with us. Quick response from you to this visit.
This is a silly and immature argument. We can do ad hominem attacks on people all day long. The fact is, Ahmed Jabra is the president of the Syrian Opposition Coalition. We have recognition by the United Nations. We have offices now at the UN and in Washington.
Not by United Nations, but United States.
I did not interrupt you, sir.
He is narcotic man. If you don't know...
Okay, just allow Rafif to make her response.
We are recognized by more than
140 countries.
You see, this is typical of an Assad propagandist. You cannot listen to an opposing opinion without resorting to interruption or, again, ad hominem attacks. So, what I'm saying is you have an extraordinarily silly argument here. So Ahmed Jabra is the president of the Syrian Opposition Coalition. He has served his coalition and the people of Syria as best as he can despite the circumstances. And I think it's a very important move that he is visiting Washington.
Okay, Dr. Abdullah, you can make your point. We've got 30 seconds, please.
No, just there is the truth. They should know she is not telling the truth. Ahmed Jabra, he is narcotic businessman. You should know that. Everyone should know that. He is not the opposition, not recognized from United Nations. He is representing and getting money from U.S., from the budget of U.S. citizens, who this money should spend on the American citizens, not on these dirty people. You should know that. You should know that. I'm telling you the truth.
Okay, sir,
believe me, this is the truth.
There's going to be no agreement on those, of course.
Everyone, he knows that.
No, do I get 30 seconds?
Tell the people the truth, please.
I will give you 20 seconds.
In 20 seconds, we have been accused of being funded by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, now apparently the United States. The issue is not...
States, Saudi Arabia,
okay, so you had your turn.
You are following the...
Okay.
You are following the human rights. You
Dr.
are
Abdullah,
interested in Saudi Arabia. Why you are not speaking about Saudi Arabia?
Dr. Abdullah, you've had your turn,
Saudi
sir.
Arabia, who has no constitution.
This is exactly the kind of thing we have to deal with within the peaceful resistance.
You are looking for your interests. You are looking for your interests.
Dr. Abdullah, you've had your turn.
Syrian people, don't tell the people the truth, please. You are not telling the truth.
Go ahead.
Your guest is incapable of listening to a response he doesn't agree with. And he's going to continue to
We
do
are
this
civilized
until he's
people.
asked to be quiet. All right.
Well, go ahead.
So my point is, we have to look at the root
Please.
causes of the revolution. We have to look at about 50 years of dictatorship and tyranny. We have to look at why the revolution began in Syria and why it will continue until the regime, the dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad and his representatives, such as your guest, are put on trial and removed from power.